The man pressed his hand tightly over his wife's mouth. At the same time, he carefully lifted his head, afraid of drawing the robber's attention, but he was too focused on watching the robber, and didn't notice at all that his wife was almost suffocating. He could only hold her tightly, and keep his eyes fixed on the hole above. As the robber slowly approached, the man breathed heavily, nervous. It seemed they were about to be discovered, but suddenly the robber was called away by his partner. After the robber left, the man still didn't dare to let his guard down, until there was no more movement around the pit. He finally pulled his unconscious wife out of the water. Then he stood up to explore the deep pit, trying to find an exit, but when he walked a full circle along the wall, he could only throw the stick away in frustration. Then he moved to his unconscious wife, put his hand in the water to wet it, then slapped her face with force to wake her up. The woman woke up terrified, looking around in fear. The man hurriedly hugged her tightly to comfort her. After she calmed down a bit, he carefully scooped up some water with his hand to feed her, but after just one sip, she vomited everything back up onto the ground. The woman's reaction made the man feel deeply heartbroken, and dragged it step by step to the far end of the pit. Afterward, the man intended to just leave, but suddenly, he had an idea, and turned around to search the body. To his surprise, he found a working lighter in the body's pants. The man hurriedly collected sticks and dry grass from the ground, and used the lighter to set them on fire. The small campfire was incredibly warm in the dark night, but just as he was feeling happy, a noise suddenly came from above the pit. The woman turned pale with fear, seeing that she was truly scared. The man had no choice but to get up again and light the campfire. Then, he held the woman tightly, and they both fell into a deep sleep under the protection of the fire. The next morning, the man found that the campfire had gone out, so he had to gather more sticks. But this time, as he looked at the stick in his hand, a bold idea suddenly came to his mind, and used it to tightly bind two thick wooden sticks together. Finally, he picked up the pants, and securely tied them to the sticks. With everything ready, the man looked up at the 5-meter-high wall in front of him, then picked up the wooden stick, and threw it forcefully upwards, but the stick slid back down, almost hitting his head. Yet the man didn't lose heart. He gritted his teeth, and used all his strength to throw the stick again. This time, the ends of the stick landed perfectly on the edge of the deep pit, like a bridge, suspended in midair. The pain made him cry out in agony, but the next moment, the intense pain caused the man to collapse to the ground, screaming in agony. Seeing this, the woman hurriedly tore a piece of cloth from the wooden stick. First, she soaked it in water, then pressed it onto the man's wound. But her actions not only failed to ease the man's pain, but made him suffer even more. The man spread his arms and started laughing, looking at the water constantly flooding the pit. He calmly took the woman to one end of the pit, led her to higher ground and waited quietly. As the water level rose, the man was concerned that the woman couldn't swim, so he tried to get her to grab a hanging branch, but at that moment, the woman suddenly slipped and fell heavily into the water, struggling desperately. Just as it seemed she was about to drown, the man rushed into the water and painfully made his way to her side. This frightened the woman deeply, and what terrified her even more was that at this moment, the man seemed to have gone mad. Kneeling on the ground, he started drinking the filthy water wildly. The woman suddenly realized in terror that her husband had swallowed half a frog whole. But strangely, the man didn't find it disgusting. Instead, he told her it was a fish, and kept urging her to keep eating. Then he collapsed heavily into the water. Seeing this, the woman rushed over and hugged the man tightly, only to find that due to the infection in his wound, he had started running a high fever again. His head was throbbing painfully. Then he started foaming at the mouth. His condition was critical. The woman immediately panicked, not knowing what to do. But fortunately, the man's will to survive overcame the pain. He gritted his teeth and managed to stand up, leading the woman to a safer spot, and grabbed a tree root protruding from the wall. But just as the man tried to climb up, his headache struck again. The intense pain was unbearable, and he crazily slammed into the wall. The woman couldn't bear to see him hurt himself, so she used all her strength to drag him into the water. The cold rainwater successfully revived the man's consciousness, but this delay had caused the water in the pit to drop significantly. If they didn't act quickly, they might miss their chance. She hurriedly turned around to check, but it was too late. The man's figure had already disappeared from the pit. Only the bubbles from the water were left. The woman knelt at the edge of the pit, sobbing in sadness. She desperately hoped that the man had only temporarily sunk to the bottom and would rise again.